Welcome to Quantum Alchemist Master Podcast. In this space, we share our journey in the awakening and integration process without judgment, building an all-inclusive community of awareness, love, support, and full acceptance. Reminding you that you are the master, you are the healer, you are the medicine, you are a divine, infinite, multidimensional being. You are source in human form. We all are. Everything you seek outside of you is inside, inviting you to go within so that you remember who you really are. Step into your true potential, create your own reality, and contribute to the reality of the collective. The change starts with you. We're all one, and love is the answer.
Hi, Christina. Welcome to the Quantum Alchemist Master Podcast. It is a pleasure to have you. I'm excited to hear a little bit about you, your journey, and how you got to where you are today.
Thank you so much for having me. Can I first say that I love the name of your podcast?
Really?
I read it and I was just like, that's the best name. That's really cool. Anyway, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. Do you want a little bit about me? My name is Christina Fletcher. I am a spiritual alignment coach and energy healer over at spirituallyawareliving.com. I like to help people. I always describe it as getting spirituality off of the hobby shelf and integrate it into your everyday life. Because to me, it's so easy to put your spiritual work, just even that daily meditation or daily morning drop-in, on the to-do list. And we can all do that, right? Where it just becomes on the to-do list. And sometimes it feels a little uncomfortable. And sometimes it feels a little bit like, oh yeah, I'll just get to that later. And so I like to help you really integrate that into the everyday and find that drop space, even in the grocery store. Like it can literally be about plugging in and connecting to your higher source, wherever, however, in that flow. So that's what I'm really, really passionate about. I have lots of different tools and practices to help you find alignment, spiritual alignment, energy alignment, however you want to see that, helping you work through what I call the four worlds of yourself. So, you have your mental chatter that can keep you out of alignment. You have your emotional baggage, which we might want to call it, but we could call it other things. Your things that hold on to your heart to stop that from being in alignment, as well as your physical, just nervous system stuff, which quite frankly is so prevalent right now. So there's lots of different elements of yourself that can hold you back from the alignment of who you really are. And that's what I like to clear out for people.
That sounds really amazing, actually. And I can attest to the difficulty of the discipline of meditating every day. So I'm really good at meditating in the mornings, and I want to do a sunrise and a sunset meditation, but I haven't gotten around to include the sunset one. So it's quite a challenge to put it in there. Yeah.
It is, and it's always interesting to kind of poke around the why. Like why? What is it that's getting in the way? Is it feeling like a should? Is it just something that is like, oh, well, that'd be kind of cool because other people do it? Or is it because it's like, it just feels uncomfortable because you actually know that it's going to take you to that next up level? And it's like, maybe not.
Yeah. So, I find in my particular case, I usually do like go walk like 5 miles after I eat.
Okay.
And by the time I come back, I'm like tired and I kind of lost the enthusiasm to really sit with it. So yeah, I have to find my way around it. Maybe do it before I go walk. That would be a good idea.
Could you do it on your walk?
Well, I go with someone, so I'm always speaking to the person. I have gone on silent walks, which are really good, and then I can drop in and really kind of sit with myself.
Yeah, because honestly, walking is a form of meditation too, right? Like that's the other thing that can really get in the way, where there's these concepts of what we think meditation needs to be, but sometimes it's actually not in our makeup. And it's okay. It's okay if it's not, I think my form of meditation, yes, I have like my daily drop zone, my daily meditation, but it does depend on what I need at that moment as well. Like I'm all about like, I check in with myself. It's like, where am I? What do I need today? And sometimes it's a meditation. Sometimes it's more yoga based. Sometimes it's going for a walk. Sometimes it's, it doesn't need to be too, we talk about discipline and we talk about, it can be disciplined in the check-in is the discipline part for me. It doesn't need to be regimented. And I think I
like that. It kind of takes off the pressure, like the heavy load of having to do it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of checking in. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure a lot of people are going to identify themselves with that.
Thank you.
Christina, I'm really curious how you got to where you are today. I'm sure the journey there was quite spectacular. Anything that you could share would be awesome.
It's been a bit of an interesting journey, really. I was always called to spirituality. I was raised in the church, kind of in and out. It wasn't really heavy duty church, but it was like, in the church. And there was a lot of shoulds that were kind of thrown around, but I always had this deep inner calling of this connection to something. So everything just looked kind of different, and felt different. And I just felt like there was something to connect to. So I was always looking for ways to interpret that. So I ended up in university studying religious studies, kind of being like, well, where's a home for this way of seeing divine? What can I label myself as? I was really lucky to have a university professor who sat down with me. He was a Jesuit priest, actually. So, it was a miracle that he actually did this, but he just sat me down and he went, Christina, you really need to give up on looking for a label. You're a mystic, and that's all that's what you are. So you just have to pursue that path. And I mean, even in my 20-year-old self of being like, but what label? Okay, so what does a mystic call themselves? And he was just like, a mystic doesn't care what other people think. They're just a mystic. They're more concerned about the divine relationship. And I was like, ooh, okay, that sits hard, but okay. So I was really given all these nudges of being told, don't try to fit in, just be true to yourself. And so I really dived into that over, in my 20s. And I was really spending a lot of time connecting to my source, connecting to my angels. I got introduced to kind of Archangel Michael energy, and I was reading lots of self-development. And then I started feeling called to connect to what I perceived as my soulmate. I was like, there's someone out there who actually does understand me. Like there's someone out there who clicks. I didn't know that I was actually taking part in manifestation at that time because I wasn't reading books about manifestation and I wasn't reading about the law of attraction, and no one was really using those terms at that time. But what ended up happening was this kind of frying pan moment where Archangel Michael was basically like, Christina, get on this plane and go over to England. And it was kind of this traveling extravaganza of me backpacking around England being like, why am I here? And then walking into a meditation class, actually a class about the Michael teachings, which of course, after connecting with Archangel Michael, I was like, this is a sign. I need to go to the Michael teachings. And I did. And I locked eyes with this guy, and it was just fireworks. And, it all just unfolded where we just kind of met, went on that date that night. Next day we went on a date, and after that we were just together for 3 weeks, and we were engaged within those 3 weeks, and he moved to Canada within 6 weeks, and it was just like whirlwind. So it taught me this deep faith in understanding nudges and the deep faith of what that field can do. And it was kind of like this, well, I've got this figured out. And then we had 2 little girls within 10 months of each other within the first 2 years of being together. So that was like all these shoulds, all these new understandings, all this. Okay, now I'm in total chaos, but I know that this is out there. And so within the contrast, new clarity came, right? And it was this deep relearning of how to have faith, how to trust, how to follow flow, how to follow the nudges. And it just unfolded from there. And yeah, it was one step after another step after another step until finally we had our son, who was actually ended up being an unassisted birth under the full moon, where it was like total another path of faith. And it was just full circle of just trusting in the divine. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Let me just let that settle in real quick, because I was just speaking to my teacher. Because even though we're on the process ourselves, we have so many dark night of the souls that keep coming up, and, death and rebirth. And it's a whole process. The fact that we're spiritual teachers doesn't mean, that we have it all figured out. We're also going through the expansion process ourselves. So, I was speaking to her and I was telling her, oh my God, I'm in such a place where it's kind of hard to surrender and flow, because I'm in doing, doing, doing. And I really need your help and your guidance to kind of just remind me to surrender and flow, and that's what I've been working a lot with. And the fact that you're mentioning this and that you've gone through it several times or many times throughout your life, it's just like reassurance, like, okay, and not just for me, for everybody listening, like, it's going to be okay. Like, there is a plan. It's, it's working out for your highest good. Trust in the
Absolutely.
process.
Absolutely.
So.
And I think we're here, like, this human experience is for the dark nights of the soul. We don't want to admit that. It's really like, it's a sucky part of being human.
Yeah.
It really, but that's why we're here. Like, spiritual energy, like, as spirits, we're like, we can live in the joy space, like, for eternity.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, we need the new expansion. And I gotta say, like, this summer, I will say, total expansive time for me. My our daughters are like in their 20s. They're growing up. There's been a lot of change. I'm re-questioning. I'm like, oh, we've been living with certain principles and concepts in place of how to keep this beautiful home for our family and secure and safe. And suddenly that's not what's needed. Okay. So now it's been this total unpacking of what do we release and what do I allow and what do I really want and what do I feel called for and who am I now in this next chapter? It's uncomfortable. Brains don't like it. Like, and that's why I like the four worlds concept, because you go, your spiritual energy and your heart energy are eager to fly and soar and be like, oh, I want to try something new. Your brain is like,
don't even think about it.
We've been practicing these, like, limiting beliefs and negative concepts for a really long time. This is safe for us. So why would we want to change that? And you're like, but they're not very happy. It's like, we don't care. It's safe. This is where we are. It keeps us, feeling, steady. And so there is, it's, I don't think enough people talk about how there's a battle going off within yourself of whether you actually acknowledge the fact of your homeostasis. My son was just like, yeah, he's 14 and he was just like having a total moment of homeostasis right now. He's like, I just don't want to change. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's what we do. You mean, it's always trying to find that balance, always trying to find that steadiness of keeping things the same. That's what your brain and your physical reality want to do.
Absolutely. And we're all going through so many changes in the ascension process together, and the amount of structures collapsing in our personal, spiritual, just in every aspect, our health, everything, at the same time is quite shocking to kind of integrate that, alchemize, and kind of, build yourself a new blueprint. Well, not new, but you know what I mean? A different path, right? For you to go on and make those decisions. So
absolutely. And we are working, I think that's a really valid point, because we are working. It's not just your own personal neural pathways that are telling you something's the same. You also have the whole collective. And you're being called to go to actually just question and actually be in a state of going, maybe, okay, really good example, right? Like holidays, you have like holidays, right? You have these systems of time where everybody celebrates it the same way. You're supposed to buy, say we take Christmas, you're supposed to buy the presents, the whole family is supposed to gather together, whether they get along or not. It's like this structure of belief. And everyone goes, yes, that's how we do this.
Oh my God. I thought I was never going to have on the podcast somebody who did not believe in holidays like me. Like, I mean, I only know one more person. I'm like, I'm traveling. I don't know about you. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not, I can't do holidays. It's not
No.
it's not a real thing. Like, in my opinion, like
No.
who made up that construct, that name, that it's part of the whole process to keep the
Yeah.
economy alive.
Yeah.
Which I have nothing against, whatever suits you. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's just
Whatever
not for
suits you,
me.
but if it's giving you stress and if it's giving you pressure, what's that? You know, like I was actually a parent coach for like 8 years. And so I targeted, like, I was still practicing, working on the same things. It was still all about spiritual alignment, but it was specifically for parents. And the amount of parents that I would just like, they would be like, okay, I can't do anything. Like, I can do all the self-development work up until like mid of November. And then after that, I'm just like too stressed out because I'm working on holidays. And you're like, okay, we need to actually pause and actually reflect on what we're actually saying, because holidays are supposed to be about a break. Instead, it's one of the most stressful times of the year.
100%.
And I think that's a really just a little example where we're poking around, and it's okay to actually ask about the systems in place and go, why? And is this for me? Is this in my highest interest? Am I allowed to, because of course, it's like, oh, on holiday and everyone goes, are you Scrooge? And it's like, no, I'm actually following my joy. It's like, I'll be a much better person if I don't have the stress of the holidays.
Absolutely, 100%. I resonate with that 100%. Thank you for bringing that up. And I love you touching on questioning the limiting beliefs, the structure, and everything that's been in place for millennia. You know, and how it came about. Also, that's a whole nother ball game. But anyway, just having the sovereignty, being a sovereign being, to take, that ownership and questioning it. Like, you don't have to do what everybody else does, and that's okay. I was part of a woman's real estate team a while ago, and someone passed in the group. And before she passed, she would say her whole, just to call it slogan or to call it something, was "Do joy now." And that resonated with me so much. She left behind 4 little kids, and that just stayed with me. Like, really, just do joy now. Find things that bring you joy. Of course, we can't be joyful all the time, but kind of bringing that in as much as possible. I don't think we do. Like, when you were a kid, or bringing joyful activities. Like, when was the last time that you did something like, I don't know, art, dance, whatever it is that brings you joy?
Yeah.
How often are you including that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting too. Like, I'm all about, I really, really appreciate how you did say, like, claiming your own sovereignty in this and actually claiming your own path, because what does bring you joy? Like, I'm a big questioner. Like, I like to poke, I like to poke with the stick. I'm always like, getting curious. I mean, maybe that was my joy as a kid. It was like, what happens if I actually So if I touch the hot stove, what happens? Oh, okay, that's what happens. Well, at least I know now. Like, it wasn't like nobody was going to tell me what to do. I had to poke around it. And so it takes it's interesting to, rather than seeing it as a big deal to question stuff, to actually just get curious, of like actually asking yourself the questions that you just go, like, take it for granted, like, it's like to actually take beliefs that you believe so deeply within yourself and go, do I believe that? And then still be able to go, yep, that's what I believe. But just feel, and then go, well, what actually does bring you joy? Like, in one of my, I ran a group program, and we were talking about the power of being creative. And it was amazing how many people would just go, oh yeah, I'm not a creative person. And I was like, do you cook? Like, it's like, cooking can be a creative thing. It's not just right? Gardening can be creative. Even just imagining new solutions, like that can be a joyful space, right? Like just actually sitting and imagining lying on a beach is a moment of joy. It's like claiming your inner joy rather than what we're told is joyful. Because even then it's there again, right? Like it's there again. It's like what has been superimposed on as joyful. And so it's really your own unique take of how things feel. And all of a sudden you feel like a ping where you go, oh, yeah, that's juicy. That feels really good. I like that feeling. And then it's like, how do you embellish that feeling? It's, yeah, it's integral.
I love that.
Intuitive. Yeah. It's fun.
I love it's fun. I love the way you describe that. So for me, the way I kind of tune into joy, or one of the ways, is when I'm doing that activity, I'm not thinking of anything else. So that for me is like I'm in the zone. Like
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's amazing how that becomes an indicator of it being joyful as well. Like it's rippled, right? Like it's like, if I want to fully enjoy this, I need to be fully focused. And then it's like, oh, look at that. I was totally focused. That was because it was so full of joy. Like it plays on itself because, I mean, joy is our natural state of being. And often we don't talk about that, of like, we are made of loving energy. That's like what we are. So when we feel joy, it's like full connection. Why would we be distracted from that? So, you walking in a beautiful area and just observing all of the different sounds and textures and experiences and just taking part in beauty, all of a sudden it's like you just feel yourself in a state of joy and awe, and that's full connection.
That is so awesome. Do you have any like tips that you recommend or you personally like for being more in alignment or being more in a joyful state, or I don't know, anything you want to share to kind of give like some tips and strategies or actionable steps for the listeners?
Absolutely. I mean, I have my go-tos, but today I think I actually feel called to share a tip that I actually got from a guest on my own podcast, Showing Up Whole, which was actually called The Power of Awe. It's a book written by these two men. And I know I'm going to forget their names, but the book is called The Power of Awe. And they actually did a scientific study on the feeling of awe. And they actually now call it the new form of mindfulness, where you actually, we all experience awe. This isn't something that you actually have to, it's not something you have to study. At some point in time, everyone has had an awe-filled moment, which is very aligned to joy. And so what they've broken down is a 3-step process, and they've used the word awe to kind of remind everyone how you use this. So it's like an acronym of your first, like the A in awe is to appreciate. So you find something that you just focus on appreciating, and you just appreciate its colors and its textures. And you, like you said, you put your whole focus and attention on that. The W stands for wait. So you have appreciation and wait. So while you're in that state of appreciation and you're generating that, you wait and you pause. And then in that suspension, all of a sudden you feel your heart just go, and you take kind of inhale. And then the E stands for exhale. And you just allow yourself to rest in that elevated state. So it's just awe of just appreciation, wait, exhale. And that they've actually done the scientific study that shows that the brain registers that as a deep meditation.
Wow. That is so awesome.
Isn't that cool?
It's simple. It's simple, but it's not something you would have thought about. You know what I mean?
No,
it's so.
We love to make everything such a big deal. Like it's like, oh, what do I want to manifest? Oh, I want to manifest way over here. We don't go, I want to manifest a really beautiful day full of great relief and where I feel really aligned. It's always got to be the big stuff, right? It's like, I don't want to feel content. It's like, I want to feel bliss. Just like, okay, well, work on awe. All of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah.
I'm glad you touched on that, because I was speaking also to my teacher yesterday. I don't speak to her very often anymore, unless I really, really need it, because I know she's also very busy in her own stuff. But we were talking about that bliss because I work a lot with plant medicine, both, full dose and microdose. And I was just telling her how I'm feeling more called to work more, and I've been working more with microdose, rather than the full dose, because yes, you achieve that oneness, that bliss state, but it's short lived. Just to kind of, really the work is in the integration process of that, of that experience. So I was just talking to her about that bliss, that it's not just in that ecstasy state, it's bringing it into the day-to-day activities, into the here and now, into whatever it is that you're doing right now. Like we're doing this podcast, just being fully present with the human experience, which has just cycles, just like Mother Nature does. We're not always going to be at that high, right? We're it's just a natural process of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I always see spiritual work, inner work, alignment work. It's a labyrinth, right? So it flows, the outer circles, sometimes you do have to. It's amazing how often I'll get onto with a client, like on a client session, and I'll be sensing something, and it will just be like, actually, we need to like rewind and go to like nervous system regulation. Let's just get you feeling really grounded and safe in your body, because unless you feel safe in your body, you can't manifest and you can't create your highest version of yourself if you don't feel grounded and safe in your body. It's just, as soon as you introduce a change or a different frequency or a shift, your whole self is just going to chuck it out because it feels so unsafe. So it's like you have to give yourself the space to tap into where you are at the moment on the labyrinth. Is it something that you need from the outer? Is it something that you need from the inner? Are you on kind of a dip and turn, which might feel like you don't really know where you are at that moment? But that's okay. If you follow your path, you'll find yourself back into center. Like it's such a good illustration of trusting your innate self, like who you really are. It's okay if it takes some shifts. I will say, like I think you nailed something really important, that you have that state of bliss, but it is a bit like spirit being like, yeah, we can actually live like this all the time. Like, let's get into the growth. Let's get into the mud. Let's get really like messy. And yeah, let's clear this out. Let's clear that out. It's a bit like having the closet, like full of all the stuff. And it's like, okay, just get that there. When you actually start clearing it out, you find this like sense of awe, and you find the things that you value as well as the things that you need to check out. And then you feel lighter and lighter and lighter. And you find that you just really love being human, and that in the long run, that's why we're here.
The acceptance of that. That's big. Thank you for bringing that in. So could you share with us a little bit about like what you offer, or how can people find you, kind of, just your services?
Absolutely. I'd love to. So my site is spirituallyawareliving.com. And that's basically my tag name on all social medias is Spiritually Aware Living. You can find me there. My podcast is Showing Up Whole, which I think I mentioned. And really what I love deep diving into the work with one-on-one clients. We usually start off with like a 6-week package where we really just work through the 4 worlds of yourself. So making sure that you feel really safe in your body, making sure that you can identify where homeostasis is kicking in and trying to talk you out of alignment, making sure that we really release anything that's holding onto your heart. We do cord clearing and we do the whole release work. I always do like 90-minute sessions with like mindset as well as energy healing. So it's like fully integrated, fully in flow. So that's my favorite thing to do, because that's when you really see the shifts and realignment, and everyone just lines up to the life they want. But I also have a membership program that meets every Sunday. We do a meditation and a group energy healing. We are working through energy alignment right now. We're on the mental energy alignment. So we're just working through thought processes, planting the seeds of your thoughts that you want, weeding out the ones you don't, and deep diving in there. So that's a beautiful community that I'm really proud of. So those are my two big things.
Awesome. Sounds really cool, actually. I'm going to go ahead and put all of that in the description so that way it's easy for people to just click on that and contact you. Is there any last messages you want to share or anything else? Kind of open floor before we go.
Oh, yeah. I would probably say two things. One thing is I always like to remind everyone that it's really about the journey, not the destination. So, that might be a trending phrase, but it is really important to let that sink. It's like, it is actually the journey that's what you're here for. The other thing is that it's also a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you're allowed to take the time to do it. Self-compassion is the greatest friend of inner work. And it's what we all have a tendency to push aside. You don't need to prove anything. You're not really going to get it wrong because no matter what, you're a spiritual being anyway. So just don't try to force it. Just allow it.
Thank you for sharing that and being open about that. Also, when I work with clients, that's one big thing. We're just having a human experience. Don't be so hard on yourself. So It's okay. Everything is perfect. You're exactly where you need to be. You're not ahead. You're not behind. It's okay.
Exactly.
Just enjoy the present moment.
Yep. Absolutely. Just be
resonate with that. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. I love your energy. I love what you bring into the space. I could feel the love, the comfort, the safety, the guidance. And the fact that you've been through it yourself, it's just, you could really, relate with us. So
absolutely. We're all in it together.
We're all in it together. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I've loved this conversation. It's been beautiful getting to know you. So thank you.
Same here.
Thank you so much for listening. For more, follow us on Instagram at Quantum Alchemist Master.